What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Mystic's favorite nerd, and since I couldn't get the SDCC Doctor Strange exclusive box set, this is the closest to Doctor Strange I'm going to be getting for a while, I imagine. So we're going to be looking at these four, which rounds out our Avengers Wave of the Hulkbuster Build-A-Figure, and it's going to be a long one because it's 4 figures, so that's not dilly-dally. Let's start with the repaint and get this fella right out of the way. So this is an Iron Man repaint. It's got a little bit of retooling going on, and we'll talk about it. So the chest has been retooled. It's got this more square bit. The shoulders have been retooled. They're just a different aesthetic choice, and I think everything else is status quo. I could be wrong. I don't have the other one right in front of me. Oh, and of course this little niblet here on the back, which pegs in. And you can switch it to either shoulder depending on your aesthetic choice, and then whichever shoulder you plug it into, it sits kind of properly on the opposite side. It swivels where it pegs, and then there's a hinge here at the back, and then it swivels here. So it's actually pretty well done. There is a lot going into that, and I appreciate that. So pretty cool. It's got that metallic finish, which I wish they used on Hulkbuster, as does most of this figure had this metallic finish, which I think would have really brought that Hulkbuster to life. Looking at the figure itself, we've talked about the mold before. We'll run through the articulation and stuff again, just because there is some retooling and stuff. But the paint on the face and head is fantastic. It is superb. It is outstanding. The silver is sharp as a tack. The red around the white eyes is also perfectly done, and the white eyes are also perfectly done. It is a really, really, really well painted head. Well done. They learned to color within the lines, and I applaud them for that. Coloring within the lines is hard.
Wow, you're doing a really good job of staying in the lines.
Well, staying in the lines is easy if you're a professional.
But anyway, the joint in there is let's just take the head off, a ball hinge. It's a little tight, but it is there, and the range of motion is pretty good. You get down that far, up that far, and then, you know, pretty good across the board. Accessory wise, he comes with basically the same Iron Man repaint, except it is a remold because it does have like a Don Cheadle. I guess that's a likeness. It's an attempt at likeness. There's something really goofy going on in the eyes there, but I'll never have my War Machine, not ready for business anyway, so it doesn't really affect me. But just pointing it out. Torso of the figure, it's on the same ball joint that we've seen before with the Iron Man. Range of motion's pretty good. I like it. I like the cut. It's hidden pretty well. I don't think that's ratcheted. I think that's that same type of ball peg that we saw in Iron Man, and it's just tight again. It's just not tight enough to prohibit articulation. You still get it, but that's just it moving against itself and causing friction. So, painted really well. Not as good, but really well. We missed some spots down in there with some carelessness, and over there. The back looks good. The symbol here looks okay, except I do have a little nick there, but that is individual results may vary, and I got some white up on the chest, but once again, tampered Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes and this FF445 bit all look good, as does this symbol over here. Good to go. These are the same kind of friction pads on a softer plastic that allow for articulation, so it doesn't impede the articulation at all. Shoulder ball hinges basically for shoulders again, soft ratchet kind of, and then a much more firm soft ratchet at the back and forth. Once again, these shoulder pieces are much better done than the previous Iron Man, which is the second repaint at least that we've seen of that mold in the recent past. But it is good to go. Sculpt is all good in there. Good detail all in there, just like before. Bicep swivel, no problems there. Double jointed elbow. Good to go. all this detail, all the metallic finish does look great. I really like that. And then it has a ball hinge. Wrist doesn't get you much back, does get you a little bit forward, and that's pretty cool. Would have liked one open hand, that would have been nice. Same on the other side. Moving down, the torso, abdomen, pelvis area, the paint is much better than the chest, but it is still not as good as the head. And then I got some plastic flash down there in the pelvis, but that's an individual results will vary kind of thing, and you can cut it away with an X-Acto blade and you're good to go. Ball hinge, T-jointed ball joints for hips. They're really well done this way, not so much that way because of the sculpt of the thigh. Turn the thigh to the side and you can get it all the way up, and then he's cooking, which is like kicking, except not pronounced nor spelled nor means the same, at a very weird angle. Kicking at a very weird angle. And back is okay. Thigh swivel built in, and that looks good. Really well hidden seam, as we've talked about before. Pretty cool. Paint is all done really well there, and double jointed knees work just fine. No big deal. Paint on the calf looks good, and foot, nothing really. You get there is a joint in there. It's a tilt, but I can't get anything out of it, so it's pretty much worthless. And there he is. Next up is Vision. He comes with this cape as an accessory, and I hate it. It doesn't fit into the sculpt properly. You can see how it's destroyed the peg on my cape. I don't like this type of cape design. I don't like the little skinny bit at the top, and then it gets super wide at the bottom. Like, the physics of it doesn't make sense. I know it's supposed to be wrinkled up here, but the wrinkles aren't sculpted in, so it annoys me to no end. But this figure is decent otherwise. So let's talk about him. It's the it's either the Bucky. I think it's the Bucky. No, it might be the Grim Reaper. I think it's the Grim Reaper. Anyway, head is on a ball hinge. I told you I'm not good at that kind of stuff. The face, the head is this this greenish paint, and then the red is painted on, and is painted on fairly well. A little fuzzy around the edges, but not terrible. Worse on this side. White eyes painted well. The yellow jewel on the head also painted well. So that's good to go. Yellow around this dark green is the base here for this chest piece. The yellow is painted well. Yellow, as you know, is a hard color to kind of nail, especially when it's going over top of a darker color. But I have to say, really clean line work there. Maybe it was multiple coats that were applied. Overall, not bad. The diamond looks okay too. And then the lighter green is up there as well, and that looks okay. Articulation-wise for the torso, you get one click forward, one click back. So, decent. And the ball hinged shoulders, soft ratchets. That feels like a hard ratchet, but I think that's probably due to a flash issue. Bicep swivel. The green on top of the green looks fine on both sides. Little gummy there. But that's due to the seam in the mold, but it still could have been fixed with a little bit of TLC, but no big deal. The soft joints for the elbows there, which you know I'm not a fan of. Good clean line work for the most part with the light green on top of the dark green here. The wrist swivels and hinges, and it's really kind of clever how they were able to do that with that color plastic for the forearm, and then this design on top of the red there, which isn't perfectly painted, but is painted well enough, I think, to get the job done. Good choice of sculpt for the hand, very Vision-esque. And then this line work on the darker green on top of the light green is actually done really well. And that's pretty true throughout, but we'll talk about that a little later. Same on this side, and everything is still pretty much clean on this side, and we got a fist hand, which is okay. And then waist swivel, you know, standard issue. T-jointed ball joints for hips, and the paint here is done fairly well too on the pelvis, just as a heads up. Get you out to there, forward to there, back to there, so pretty good all around. Thigh swivels, the next joint. This green is painted well, and so is this green. On the inside, the line work gets a little shoddy, but it's still not bad. It's still a lot better than I would expect. And they even painted the little the pin in there, like these Marvel Legends. If you've ever taken them apart, there's a plastic pin. It's a soft gummy plastic that they use to insert that pins us together. There's no metal pieces whatsoever. So that's pretty good. And then a calf swivel, because that's dumb, but it is painted well, I must say. And the plastic colors and the greens match up fairly well. Not perfect. This is a little lighter than this, but it's not hateful by any stretch of the imagination. Double jointed knees, no problems there. And then the ankle hinge and tilt or rocker built in. So pretty decent all the way around, with the exception of this nightmare. Next up is Valkyrie. She's pretty good. She's probably my favorite of this set that we're looking at. We'll start with the head. The hair is sculpted fairly well. The ponytails are soft enough where you can get them out of the way to not impede articulation. Her one accessory is pretty lousy. It's a sword. It's sculpted good enough. It has silver paint on it, but it's warped, which we can fix. It just looks cheap to me. But whatever. So the head is sculpted fairly well. The eyes and all the lips and all that kind of stuff are painted well. The hair has wash on it, so that's a nice touch. And so are the little bandage wraps that cling up her ponytails. They're painted pretty sharply as well, so no real complaints there. Head is just on a ball peg, so the articulation's fairly limited, and it doesn't help that this hair kind of blocks it there in the back. So, what are you going to do? Silver's painted really well at the neck armor, and as well as the what are we going to call these units? Boob shields and abdomen shields. They're painted fairly sharply as well on top of this black plastic. We do have a little silver that's spilled over there. Individual results will vary. That's just an error. Ball hinge shoulders work just fine. We've seen this mold very recently with Thundra. And bicep swivel. The black stripe is painted clean. Elbow hinge works fine, a little tight. You may need to use hot water on yours, but good enough. Silver bracelets are painted well. Would have been nice if they were sculpted, but they're not going to do that quite yet. But they are painted well. Yeah, pretty good. Wrist hinge and swivel. I do not care for the fact that they use two handle holding hands, and the sword is only long enough to be held by one hand. So I don't know, I would have liked the handle to have been longer so that you could pose her, or a different option for this hand, because I don't care for that whatsoever. The belt is sculpted on, which I thought was a weird choice, and all the little rhinestones or whatever, they're sculpted and painted, as is the belt buckle. It's just not what I've come to expect. I got to say I was pleasantly surprised. The hips are those weird joints, but they do work well. So they're wide jointed, so you can get them up to there, and then you swivel at the thigh to kind of get the articulation that you want. Double jointed knees, and then ankle tilt way up to there, way back to there, and rocker, no problem. Not a lick of paint from the waist down. But all in all, she's done pretty well. The paint that is applied well. The sculpting that is done is sculpted well. And, can't find too much to gripe about. So, I don't know. Pretty good. And lastly is Doctor Strange. She comes with these two accessories, these green plastic things. I don't know. This wrist one here works a lot better for the Scarlet Witch than this male one does for him. But it is a cool idea. I still like the idea, and it is a cool looking effect. But let's go ahead and take those off and talk about the figure. A fair amount of retooling going on here. So head, different head sculpt as far as I know. I like it a lot. I like the eyebrow. I like the expression. I like the handlebar mustache. The paint on the hair could have been done a little bit better. It's very cartoony, but it is clean at the same time. Head is on a ball hinge, not really, limited by anything, but it doesn't, this gets real nitpicky, it doesn't look very natural from the side. I think if they would have built up a collar here, you would have lost some articulation, but it would have looked a little bit more natural. It just looks a little strange to me, but it's good enough, especially straight on. The red on here is actually painted really well, and they it looks as though they washed it when they were done, so it looks really good against the black. So well done there. Waist swivel, the torso ab crunch, as it were. You get one click forward, one click, I think, well, no, it's actually two forward, one back. So that's pretty good. Shoulders, ball hinge, they are tight. So I would use caution if yours are like mine, but you can get up to there with no issue. Bicep swivel, not a lick of paint on the shoulders or bicep or elbow. The gloves have been remolded as far as I can tell, which is kind of a weird finish, to be honest with you. I mean, I know what they were trying to do, like that stuff that kind of comes down his glove, but it doesn't, I don't know if it translates all that well. The hand motion is perfect. I love the devil horns, you know, for like summoning his you know, dark arts or whatever, he's, you know, his sorcery. Same on the other side, looks good. Except for those forearms, they look a little weird. Okay, so this piece is a floating plastic, this like I don't know, skirt, for lack of a better term. It is painted, like, it is weird, not weird, but it's just uncommon for me. Like, that's painted down there to line up with that. Like, that was a nice touch. That was thoughtful of them. The gold is painted. The red is painted, and the sculpt is decent enough. It's soft enough where it doesn't really get in the way of articulation, so that's pretty good. The hips themselves, there's something weird going on. So when you line them up, there's something strange, like that's lined up. It may be hard to see on camera, but like, doesn't that look weird? I feel like I've got the wrong, like I've got like two, I bet you I have two, I do, don't I? No? I don't know, it looks like I have two of the same leg, doesn't it? You see the way that this one's bowing in and this one's bowing out? Very weird. I can't tell just by looking at it, but it looks like I have two of the same. Maybe it's these lower pieces, or maybe it's just warped and I need to hot water and get it back, but I don't know. Something is off for mine. The sheen is a lot more prevalent on the lower pieces than it is the mid pieces, and that throws it for a loop because it looks like he's wearing hot shorts and boots with like a black spandex underneath or something. The blacks don't match at all. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it does lose. So you get out to there, forward, back to there, thigh swivel, double jointed knee. Which does get hung up in this bit a little bit, but and then the calf swivel for repaint and reuse, and then the tilt all the way down, all the way up, and rocker. So yeah, that's him. Final thoughts wise, this is a pretty mediocre edition. The paint is all done really well, pretty much across the board. Not to say it's perfect across the board, that's definitely not what I'm saying, but it is executed fairly well, at least average. If not, no, you know what? For Marvel Legends average, it's definitely above average. I have to give it to him on that. The paint has certainly taken a large leap forward. I don't know why that was so difficult for me to get out there. The problems with this is that, like, the Doctor Strange is kind of just meh. You know, there's just a lot of things that are wrong with him. Like my legs are weird. Not sure if yours are. In the way that the blacks don't match and stuff like that, it just doesn't make you want to look at him. It's just like, ugh, God, what happened here? It's just weird. It's unsightly. So the positives basically is that the paint is clean, the molds work good enough, the characters are pretty good choices. I would like to see some more interesting villains. It seems like we only get the goofiest villains ever, and then we get all the heroes. But for the heroes, I mean, War Machine, Doctor Strange, Vision, and Valkyrie, those are pretty unique choices for a Marvel's Avengers line. It's pretty nice to have those additions to your collection, especially if you're a more modern Legends collector. It's good character choices, it's decent molds, really good paint for Marvel Legends. There's just not a whole lot that's special about them. There's not a whole lot that's just like, wow, like this nailed it. Like Kraven, like kind of blew me out of the water. You know, I was just like, oh my god, look at everything new that's going on here. This is not bad. You know, and if you're into these characters, they're definitely worth picking up. Or if you want the Hulkbuster armor, they're definitely worth picking up. But there's nothing here that's gonna knock you on your feet. I think that this is a step above, you know, what we've seen recently, you know, but just a half step. And this will probably give you a taste of what the run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road Marvel Legend is going to be like. The good news is that it's pretty good, so when one does come out that is above average, you're probably going to be really happy. And if one comes out that's below average, it's probably going to be only what you've gotten before. So overall, it's pretty good news. So I'd say worth picking up if you're into the characters, worth picking up if you want the Hulkbuster. Outside of that, you can probably skip them and move on. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.